Welcome back to part 10 of this red line swap of the H22 into this DC2 Integra rally car. The motor's almost ready to fire, but I've got to take a step backwards because I've discovered that the engine swap mount on the gearbox, the bracket on it is actually touching the chassis rail. So I'm going to have to drop the motor down and take that bracket out and trim it and put the whole thing back together again. But I'd rather do that now than have the thing tapping later on and have to do a lot more work further down the track. I'm also still fitting the roll cage to this car, and at the moment I'm working on the back section, adding the strengthening bars that I described in the previous episode of this series. So I'm trying to do all my fabrication work so I can get Migman over and get a day's welding out of him. The first thing I'm working on are the rear diagonals that hold the main hoop in place. These are the base plates supplied for the rear diagonal backstays. They're just a mass-produced item. They don't really fit here at all. So I've checked the rules and found the minimum size they need to be. And they only need to have 2 holes in them. So I've made my own out of the correct thickness steel. I think they're a much better job. So I can get Migman to weld that in shortly. I want to add this second rear brace to tie the rear towers in the way that I've described. Will make the car handle better, and as this is a bolting cage, I've got to come up with a bracket design that'll work in here to lock that bar in. This is what I've come up with: a bit of recycled bed iron picked up out in the street from a council throw out. I'm using one of the bolts of the top strut and that bolt on the rear main hoop brace. And what I'll do now is cut this pipe to fit and weld there. That'll tie everything in really well. All the components for the rear roll cage are in place, ready to be welded. You can see how it all ties together and makes a really strong car. That mounting bracket now clears the chassis, and I found that because I trimmed that bracket I could move the motor over. So what I did was I ovalised the holes in this mount. That allowed me to push the whole engine over and get really good clearance now on that belt, on the power steering pump. So just pushing the motor about 3 mil or 1/8 of an inch in that direction has made a big difference, and it's sitting really well now. None of us can see into the future, and I've had a change over the last couple of weeks in my life circumstances that's going to affect this build with the H22 into the DC2. I've made the decision to retire from the active workforce, and my wife and I are looking at buying a block of land about an hour from here up in the hills and building a new house. So I've got to finish all my own projects and get this house finished. So the Integra's had to go back to the owner of the car. Unlike me, he's a fully qualified mechanic, so he'll have no trouble finishing it. I've done 90% of the work, so I have no doubt that he'll have it finished and racing this year. When he does, I guarantee you I'll show you some racing videos of it in action. So be patient, the car will get finished and you will see it. It just won't be finished by me.